Welcome to week 2 of English 11, semester 2. This week we're going to be reviewing chapter 1. We will be reading like 3 pages of chapter 2, and then I'm going to just summarize the rest of it by having you watch the scenes in the movie, because honestly, reading chapter 2 for the most part, other than the first 2 pages, is kind of a waste of time because I'll explain. But anyway, and then we'll end the week by starting and finishing chapter 3. So we're going to do a Kahoot review in class for chapter 1. As a refresher, this is the breakdown of all the characters and how they're related. So far, into chapter 1, we have met Daisy, Tom, and Nick, and Jordan. We have yet to meet Myrtle, George, or Gatsby. This is the map as a reference. And then this is our essential question. Is love enough, and is it enough to be content in life? So with chapter 2, we're going to read, like I said, the first 2 or 3 pages, but a lot of what chapter 2 is kind of boring to read, and I don't want to have to make us read that when we could be spending our time reading the better chapters. So essentially, you're going to see what happens in the movie scenes, but if you're not in class that day, essentially what happens is that Tom invites Nick to go into the city with him for, I think, lunch one day. And Tom essentially introduces Nick to his mistress, which is Myrtle. She lives in the Valley of Ashes. She is married to George, and George is one of the mechanics. He works on cars. He's worked on Tom's car before, and so we meet Myrtle. And basically, they go into the city. Myrtle meets them, and they go to Tom and Myrtle's secret apartment, and they basically get super drunk, have a party, and then Nick wakes up the next day and is like, "What just happened?" It's kind of weird, kind of crazy, but that's what happens in chapter 2. So you're going to answer these questions after watching the movie portion of it. What mood is evoked by the Valley of Ashes? And then how does the apartment party scene portray the Roaring Twenties? Consider the setting, the music, Nick's involvement, and other choices. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to start chapter 3. To warm up, you're going to answer this question. Can you know, quote unquote, everything about somebody, but at the same time not truly know them at all? You might have a different take on this than your peers, and that's totally fine, because I feel like this is a very layered question, and I would love to see what you have to say about that. The reason I'm asking is because when we meet Gatsby in chapter 3, you're going to find that um, just because you feel like you know everything about somebody doesn't mean that you actually really do. And then I just want to give this to you as kind of a heads up, something to consider. Because The Great Gatsby is told from Nick's point of view and he's reflecting back. I think the movie says that when he's telling the story, it's 1929, so 7 years later. He's reflecting back, and hindsight is 2020, that old adage that means that you see everything clearer after it's happened. Knowing this, Fitzgerald, who's our writer of the story, he uses a lot of foreshadowing. So especially in chapter 3, I want you to pay close attention to little details, things that people say, things that are described, because it'll foreshadow a lot of what's going to happen in the rest of the book. And then, like always, please be taking notes as you're reading, because this is going to help with our final project. So we're going to start chapter 3, and then halfway through chapter 3, we're going to analyze F. Scott Fitzgerald's language. So you're going to look at how does he use language that creates reckless, carnival-like atmosphere at Gatsby's party, because chapter 3 is we get to go to Gatsby's party. You're going to consider figurative language, imagery, and word choice, and I want you to find the top 4 examples of this type of language and give me an example of what that looks like and what that means. So here's an example. This is a passage. The lights grow brighter as the earth lurches away from the sun, and now the orchestra is playing yellow cocktail music, and the opera of voices pitches a key higher. Laughter is easier minute by minute, spilled with prodigality, tipped out of a cheerful word. So the effect that these words have, this figurative language and the imagery, is it makes Gatsby's party seem like it's just unstoppable. It just keeps going. It moves with nature. As the night gets darker, the lights get brighter, all those types of things. The guests drink more, talk more, laugh more. The party seem to have their own life cycle, and it just keeps on going. So you're going to find 4 passages. Give me an example, and then tell me what does that look like. and then we'll take a break, and then you're going to read close read, which means you're going to reread this paragraph because this is one of the paragraphs we read in chapter 3, and you're going to annotate the passage below using the comments feature. So you can highlight it and then jot down everything that you know about Gatsby thus far and what you still want to know in the space above. So this paragraph explains what Nick's character is thinking as he meets Gatsby for the first time. And then on Thursday and Friday, we are going to do a little recap in class with a partner, and then we're going to finish chapter 3. You're going to answer this question: why did Fitzgerald wait until halfway through chapter 3 to introduce us to Gatsby? Because if the book is about him, it's named after him. Why did he wait until halfway through the 3rd chapter to actually introduce him? And then chapter 3 scenes. We're going to watch the scenes in the movie. How does the film portray Nick's belief in Gatsby's background? How skeptical is he? Think about the character or the director's choices in terms of how the scene was filmed, the facial expressions, all of that. And that is all I have for you for week 2. If you need anything, please let me know.